Darren, thank you so much for coming on the Easy Pray podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to have this conversation.
So, can you give myself and the audience a little background about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I am in the digital marketing space. I've been doing this for over 20 years. I don't want to give the exact number away. And um, I cover it all. So anything from, online SEO, paid ads, social media, and mostly what I'm into right now is what we call reputation management. ORM is the acronym.
Organizational reputation management?
Online
Online.
reputation magazine management.
I don't know why I said organizational.
It's a good one though.
And so, how did you get into the field?
You know, in about 2012 or 2013, at least in Orange County, there were several ads that constantly played on the radio for a certain reputation firm, and it was just playing every day, every day, every day. And I wasn't really thinking about or working in that space at all. But of course, because the commercial kept popping up, I'm thinking, wow, this must be a pretty niche market that's doing really well because they keep doing the ads, which costs a lot of money with the velocity they were going. So I started researching them. I started researching what they do. I started reverse engineering what I saw that they were doing, and then immediately realized that that's not the way it should be done if you're going to do it. And I came up with my own method.
Hey, I can do that better.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to do it better. I was trying to just see, hey, how are you doing it, and can I copy it? But I had to do it different.
And is the reason why you wanted to do it different because it just as part of the investigation and digging into what they were doing, your solution was just a little more durable?
Yeah, there's certain things in Google. Let's just call it Google because they're the ones where all this matters the most. If you're going to optimize for anything, optimize for Google. There's like three key things that have always remained with them, and they have a terms of service. You can dig into it and really learn a lot if you want to nerd out and do that. But it's content, code, and links.
Yep.
Now, it used to be a lot simpler back in the day. Now those three things could mean so many different variables and variations. It could get very convoluted, but content is king. You don't want to have duplicate content out there, and everything you do has to have some kind of unique and marker, but also have a way to connect it to each other. I'm trying to be vague, but also give details. But um, if you follow their guidelines correctly, Google can follow and understand what you're trying to accomplish. And
I
what I saw other people were doing was they were duplicating themselves too many times. They were creating too many easy traceable patterns or footprints.
With respect to Google, I remember many, many years ago, a company I was working for, I wrote a very cleverly worded paragraph that was on the homepage. And it resulted in the company I was working for, their website ranking first for a competitor's name.
Oh, nice.
Needless to say, the competitor was a little upset and we got a cease and desist. And so I had to remove a couple of words out of the paragraph. But in the early days of the internet, you could very quickly do some crazy things with a few cleverly placed phrases.
That's very true.
So what is it that? Okay, let's talk about kind of the reputation management. Let's set the terms. What is online reputation?
So it could mean a lot of things for a company. It could be um, reviews. It could be information being published about them from other people or other companies trying to, sabotage or hurt them in some way. It could just be information in general, like about your personal name being put out there in the form of an article, a blog, a news release, a video, and as we know now with all the social media, it could be something that you got put onto TikTok and it went completely viral and out of control.
Yep. So what are kind of some of these things that companies are doing that put them at risk of hurting their reputation? I guess it's whether it's businesses or individuals.
With the open media right now, I mean, you can literally post anything you want. And if you're not thinking about consequences and who's going to actually see this and how far will this go, will my friends see it? Will their family see it? People publish things and post things. They put photos, videos, you name it, online that are really inappropriate or could really be used against them. And they think, oh no, this will never come back and bite me. I'm just being funny right now, or this is me ranting because I want to rage a little bit online. And that's where it starts.
And it's I think in the last number of years, it's gone from hurting your reputation to if you work for a company, the company is now up, goodbye, we don't want to deal with you, and it potentially puts your job at risk.
Yeah, I mean, I can't count how many hundreds and hundreds of people we get that are out of a job because of something that they did or something that someone did to them, because it could also just be someone out there to hurt you. And the company had to let them go, and they're trying to find a job and nobody wants to bring them in because, of course, you don't. The easiest background check you can do now is simply type it in your name in Google.
And that's the scary thing. If you have a very unique name, there's a positive and a negative to that potentially.
Yes, correct. I have one of those unique names that when you look me up, you're not going to find another version of me.
Um, uh, Fortunately, I can say the opposite. I know that there's a drummer and at least there's a musician and somebody else who they come up in the search results before I do.
Oh, there you go.
But I guess if you're trying to be recognized online, the common name works against you.
Good, very well, yes.
And is this the sort of thing like it could even be as simple as for, let's say, like a restaurant where someone has a bad experience with the server and so they say something nasty and it goes into a Yelp review?
Right. It could be something very simple like that, and they need help to, is it possible to remove this? Is there, how should I handle it? What can we monitor maybe what's happening so we can see it ahead of time? Because sometimes they can, if they know who that person is, they can maybe even reach out and negotiate with them and resolve it before it gets too bad.
Yeah, that's always a good option as an amicable solution.
Yes.
And so let's say something has happened. Either I've done something misinterpreted online or actually downright stupid online, and people are now starting to post news stories about the stupid things I do online. What in the world am I supposed to be able to do?
So the scenario that you're presenting is what probably over 90% of the people that come to us, they didn't do anything pre the bad thing happening. Now they're coming after the fact. So now we're dealing with a whole different type of monster, because if something happens and it gets published online, you can pretty much guarantee anywhere between 5 to up to like 50 different sources will then republish the same information. And those who are savvy enough will make sure that it's unique enough so it's not duplicate, so it shows up on the results.
And that's the sort of thing where someone takes the AP feed as a source, modifies it, quotes it, and then adds a little bit of their own content to it.
Right. And all they're doing is they're making it canon. They're solidifying that this information is true because all these other sources are saying it's true. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And what you can do at that point is you have to reverse that, what just happened. Now we got to produce so many pieces of content that outweighs what's already out there and make those the connecting sources. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of details, and negative information kind of goes against the guidelines that Google makes you follow,
Mm-hmm.
because a negative sentiment is clickbait. Therefore, it breaks all the rules and it's allowed to come through faster than if I put something positive about you out there.
Yeah. And isn't that just some of it is that's just the way publicity works is I go out and say something nice about Darren, no news story is going to pick it up. But if I go out and say something negative about you, everybody's going to pick it up.
Exactly. And that negative statement is very well read through Google's AI, and they want to put it out there because they want you to click on it, because that means you're spending more time in their search engine.
Keeping you on their property.
Yes, it's very important to Google, and they're huge, and that's how they stay that way.
And so there's this matter of, okay, I need to put out good content about myself or about my client or my company to offset the negative incident that happened. What about and viewers outside of the U.S. are probably not going to get this reference. There's a politician that was recently elected in New York where there's been a lot of accusations that uh, he has embellished his resume and lied about where he went to college, what he did, where he's been, people in his family. If there's a big history online of people of stories like that, is that more problematic to resolve because now you have potentially weeks, months of years of history out there about a person that I'm now trying to say is not true?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody embellished or put something out there from like 10 years ago and then it resurfaces and comes back up as a hot topic, now you have all these news sources referencing this older archived aged source, which has more authority now than anything else. So it's going to add more weight and it's going to push it right back at the top of Google.
Mm-hmm. And when I guess the question is like with politics and politicians, because they are newsworthy individuals, because they're public figures, do these things impact them a little bit more than they would Chris Parker, website owner?
Yeah, absolutely. Because now you have notoriety out there. You could have a Google Knowledge Panel, you could have a wiki. These are all really strong sources that are highly recognized. You can have an IMDb, you can be listed on major government sites. So there's a lot more out there proving that this person, is in this political arena and has all these things that connects them together. It just makes it that much more powerful and that much more difficult to replace.
It sounds to me like dealing with reputation issues is actually really, really complicated.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about digital marketing in its basic principles of I want to rank my website so that people come and buy my products or sign up for my services, I only have to optimize one website.
Yeah.
And in this scenario, I have to build anywhere between like 20 to 50 different websites that I have to optimize with SEO. So it's 20 to 50 times more difficult than ranking one website.
And so like reputation recovery, I don't know what you call the term of when you actually manage it in a positive way. This is a long game. It's not by any means going to be a quick fix.
No, no, I wish there was a really quick fix. I'm always looking for ways to find things to happen faster. Yeah, we can get certain things to rank really quickly, even within the first month or so, but a lot of it, the overall results that you're really trying to change, it could take 12 months, it could take even longer than that. The basic rule of thumb in building authority is a year with Google. But
Wow.
now that you're dealing with negatives against yourself or whatever you're dealing with, and the fact that Google wants these negatives to show up over this stuff, it could take that 13, 14, 15 months. And then once you get it, if you just stop all the activity and work, it disappears. Because something like as simple as Twitter, you can build a Twitter account, even like 3 years ago, put a couple pieces of information on, and then you can rank that Twitter with your keyword or name or whatever you put in there within like 30 days.
Hmm.
But now, if there's no activity, if there's not enough social signals that Google looks for happening within that Twitter account, it won't even show up at all.
Oh, that's a pain.
Yeah. So everything's become more difficult and there's a lot more moving pieces. And Twitter would be like the easiest thing. And if you just created one for Chris Parker in whichever location you're in, and you put those details, and then you just had some activity where people were following you, you were following them, and you created some posts just on a monthly basis, it will rank really well and it'll hold really strong.
It's that Google likes to know that something's being maintained.
Yeah. Is there life behind that piece of asset that's out there, or is it dead? And if it's dead, they don't want to show it.
Uh, So if this is a trade secret, let me know. You don't want to answer this.
Sure.
Is it difficult then for a business such as yours to have to maintain maintain the stuff that's out there in attempts of recovering your client's reputation for weeks, months, years, maybe even decades.
There's a lot of work that goes behind it. I mean, literally the activity that we have to produce for all of our accounts on a monthly basis is in the tens of thousands. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, sharing a post in the tens of thousands, engaging with other users online for each and every single one of our accounts is in the tens of thousands. I mean, it's such a huge amount of work that if you were to tell someone you can try it yourself and here's a roadmap, you'd be like, I don't have time to do this. There's no way I'm going to get all this stuff done.
It's a full-time job.
Yes, it
Well,
is.
and that's why companies like you guys exist, because that is your specialty, that is your expertise. You've had time and effort to build the systems and figure out how to do it, whereas Chris sitting at home is fighting against the wind.
Right. I mean, at a certain point, once you kind of get it under control, you can slow it down significantly as long as you don't stop.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the same thing with if you want your business to rank for keywords and get that organic traffic. Once you start that work and you start to see it moving up, once you stop, you start to see it go downwards just as fast.
So it's in some sense very similar to marketing, but not quite the same.
Correct. Correct.
I mean, marketing, you're looking for certain campaigns, and yes, I do want it to end at a certain time because my sale is ending, but my reputation needs to stay good eternally.
Yes, exactly. And and with the world changing, with the AIs, with all these abilities to almost automate a lot of information, it's not going to be too far away where a company gets alerted when something happens to one of their employees. And they go, oh, this person just got arrested. This person has a DUI. This person is not a good fit for our company anymore. And we're going to let him go. And it's going to happen more and more.
Yeah, and that's I guess that's one of the scary things about life online is other people find out about. I mean, it's what you want to have happen, and it's also what you don't want to have happen. People find out about what's going on in your life, and that either has good or bad consequences.
Yes. Yes.
I guess it is true that at times people's behavior will get them fired because the company is watching out for themselves. It's not necessarily this person's behavior outside of work is specifically impacting their behavior at work, but it's just drawing negative sentiment towards the company.
Right. What you can say, oh, well, that's my personal life. That's my private life. But at the end of the day, if you're making it public, you just made it their business.
So is the answer don't say or do anything online?
No, it's just be be very wise about what you put online. I mean, I only put out positive stuff. I've only put out positive stuff even before I was even to the reputation stuff management. I've told all my boys the same thing. Don't publicize your antics. Just put the positive stuff out there.
And it's not an issue of I'm just trying to present only the good in my life, but going on a rant is not going to always get you the response that you want.
Right, exactly.
So, are there things that let's talk about it for individuals and for businesses that they could do to kind of audit their reputation? What is my current reputation online? What's the sentiment about me or my business? How would a company go about doing that, or an individual?
So let's take an individual. You want to be self-aware of your name, your first and last name, or even your first, middle, and last name, just to figure out how unique is it. Is it unique like my name? Is it kind of there's a bunch of other people out there with the same names like Chris Parker? Figure out what that is, and then so knowing that it's important because when you search for yourself on Google, you're doing it from your location. What you find in California is not going to be the same information that you'll find in New York if you did a search.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything is geo-targeted. We have cell phones now. We connect to Google Maps. Google follows you everywhere you go. You can even get the history of what you've done over the last several years, and it'll show you in the map where you've been.
Yeah, show you places of interest.
Yeah, you take a photo and you share it, and guess what? Your photo is tagged with your name, your location, your personal information from your phone. It's all in there. It's just you can't see it unless you get into the data reading of of it. You can even now swipe up on the photo. Now you can get some of that information that you can see that gets pushed out there. So location has a big, impact on how those results show up. So knowing that, you should search your name, knowing that from your area, this is what people will see, and see what shows up. I mean, if I'm an individual, if there's more than one Darren Dunners that shows up on the internet, that means that I haven't put enough information, at least in my area, to make it obvious to Google that I'm the Darren Dunner in this area. There's just not enough online web assets created out there for that to rank. Or I just haven't, because I created so little that it's got to show something else. So that way the results don't look like there's only 2 results or 3 results. So they're going to fill it up. In a business, especially in a business, if you type in your company name, you don't want another company name to show up because you don't have enough web assets out there. You want that first 20 results. I would say page 1 and 2, but we know that the scrolling has changed those results. But the first 20 results should be filled with everything related to your company. And if another company shows up within that result, that means you don't have enough information out there for Google to rank it. And it's not. And you may say, oh, well, I have like hundreds of things out there. Well, you haven't connected them properly with Google the way that they require for them to understand and recognize it as well.
And I suspect, like, if you're in a specific industry, there's probably also, if you're a doctor, you probably want to check out your reviews on, I don't know, there's rateyourdoctor.com. I don't know. But I know there's a number of doctor rating services, just in the same way that you might look on OpenTable for businesses, for restaurants, or Yelp for restaurants. You also are there also quite a few kind of industry specific places to look at what people are saying?
Yeah, doctors and lawyers are huge because there are so many different, like superlawyers.com. I mean, there's just so many things out there that you can think of. Rate my professor, if you're a teacher, there's all these things that you should know that are out there. And then those are the ones, if you're in those niches, to make sure you get help with whoever you engage with to claim those, to optimize those, and to make sure that they have all the right information that they need. And if you already have some of them out there, like the ones that where reviews can be left and they're really bad, then find the other ones that you can get reviews on and use those instead.
I just kind of thinking is one of those other things that hurts people's reputation, not necessarily like a bad incident, but if there's just really old, inaccurate data, like saying, oh, your business used to be, like, it says, here's the business's address, but it was, 3 buildings ago.
Oh, you mean if it's outdated and it's not currently up to date? Yeah, for sure. I mean, because eventually Google can catch on that you do have a new location because they're going to start recognizing certain things. And a lot of people miss that. I mean, even franchises, like very large franchises, I see that you search for them, their information shows up and their hours are wrong, their address is wrong. Or they have 2 locations and one's open and one's not, but you don't know which is which because they didn't shut the other one down.
Yeah, I've seen that. We moved out of that location like 2 years ago. Well, why is it still on your site?
Yeah. Who's your marketing person?
I need to talk to them. So I've got one other question, but I want to ask before I ask that one. Is there any particularly good examples that you have of things that companies have done inadvertently or intentionally that have been a PR reputation disaster, and was it recoverable or was it not recoverable?
Yeah, that's interesting. So without naming names, a lot of email marketing has become so huge in certain businesses like restaurants where people, you have apps you can download, you can opt in, you can say alert me when there's a special and things like that. So these messages are going out in emails, they're going out on pop-ups on your phones, they're going all over the places with alerts. And you think, oh man, there's so many different reasons why, I can put a message out because it's National Hot Dog Day, it's National Donut Day, whatever it is, or it's a national some kind of holiday. So what they do is they set these little bot automations to grab that information and then combine it with something that they want to promote. And it just happens automatically now. And one of those companies did that. and it put out a really negative piece of information because what showed up on the calendar wasn't something to celebrate. It was just something to remember
Mm.
from history that had happened, years and years ago. And what it made it look like was that they were celebrating that negative thing that took place. And it brought up a huge uproar. It went viral instantly. And even though they had a lot of optimized assets out there, that information saturated the internet at least immediately, and it'll probably hold there for like it could hold there for about 90 days or 180 days before it starts to
Oh.
kind of settle down, because news doesn't last forever on the search results,
Hmm.
but it does hold for quite a while, especially if it's really negative.
Is that sort of one of the disadvantages of all these marketing automation tools that we have? Is that I think they call it supply, like a supply chain hack is what they often refer to it as. Is I'm relying on this service that provides calendar events that I'm going to attach my marketing to, and somebody at that company or some hacker gets in and puts in a fake calendar event, and it now goes out on my social media because because I've automatedly saying, hey, every time there's an event on this calendar, we're going to celebrate it.
Yeah, I mean, in a scenario like that, if you can build it to happen on the fly, you can also build it to happen in advance and go into the future in a sense, and all those dates, grab that information and compile it, and then you can have a team review it. So this month is already being released, so next month here's the information that's going to come out. Let's read it together with one or two people and make sure that there's nothing that we need to change or fix in this. You can catch it ahead of time if you prepare for it.
And it's definitely one of those have this shouldn't be a one the person who creates it should not be the person who's auditing it either.
Never. Yeah, no, the decoder, the engineer, let them build it and let the content specialist read it. Yeah.
Because there's definitely things that I have said that my wife has nudged me and says, dude, that didn't sound very nice. Oh, but I meant it this way. Well, but that's not what it sounded like.
Yeah.
There's times that we say things that in all intent it's good, but just the way that we phrase something just well, that could be offensive. That could not sound positive. Where having that
Yeah.
second person looking at it says,
Like,
that's
yeah, I know
that's
how I felt when I wrote it, but when I added all those exclamations, it sounded like I was angry.
yeah. Once I capitalized everything.
Yes.
So for people who are, hey, I'm newly entering the legal field, or I just graduated as a doctor, or I just started up my business. What are the things that they should be doing now to reduce the likelihood of uh, something taken out of context, a bad review, you know, of kind of these high risk, these risky events that might happen? What can they do in advance?
Yeah, the things you can do in advance, you can't necessarily prepare for a bad review, but you could hope and train your staff to make sure that they do things at least to the best of their ability. No one's going to ever do everything perfectly,
Yeah.
but at least prepare them that anything you say or do could be used immediately on a review site, and it could hurt us really quickly. But if you're just getting into your business and just getting everything started, there's the very obvious common things that are out there, like your website, your Google listing, your Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. Like, create all these assets, claim them with your name, link them to your website, and fill them with information that's helpful to the reader.
Hmm.
Um, if you do that from the very beginning, at least you've established some kind of web presence that and proof behind your existence. There's a lot more that could be done
Yeah.
beyond that, but it gets more difficult to explain.
It's the sort of thing like if you're a restaurant, finding some way to encourage your good customers to give you positive reviews. That way, if there is a negative review, it's kind of offset by a bunch of positive content.
Yeah, you just have to be careful, because if you incentivize someone for
Non-incentivized. We just really appreciate your business and would love if you give
Yes.
us a positive review. We're
And
not
I
talking
just,
we're not talking doing anything against any TOS.
right. And I just wanted to put that out there to say, like, you shouldn't incentivize that, like, in that sense, but it is always good to, hey, I hope you really enjoyed everything. If you did, would you please leave a review? And you should always have some kind of material that people can quickly scan to go right to that source that you want them to review. So, um, and kind of going back a little bit to what I just said. So if you are like a restaurant, for an example, and you want to create these obvious things, if you don't create a Google business listing on your own, Google will just do it for you.
Yeah.
If you don't create a Yelp listing, Yelp will do it for you. So a lot of these will do them for you. So if you want to control it before they do that and put the right information, the right logo, the right photos, do that ahead of time, and then you can get a share link from those and turn those into QR codes. There's so many, convert to QR code, really simple stuff you can do. Grab the image, put it on your brochures, your menus, when you first walk in, and just scan that. It'll take you right to, all you have to do is leave a review. It'll take you less than 5 minutes. It'll help us a lot.
When you talk about that, it's funny. I a while back ran across a restaurant that my wife and I would like to go out and eat, and so we're looking for restaurants. We found a restaurant that had a couple hundred reviews, and it was 4-star, 4-star restaurant. Okay, we'll go try this place. And as I'm looking at their Yelp feed, it was unclaimed by the owner, and I'm like, how could you have like? I understand if your business has been around like a month, but this place had been in business for like 3 or 4 years, and they hadn't claimed their Yelp account or their Yelp business. I'm like, missed opportunity.
Yeah. And then if they didn't build a website or buy a domain for them, someone can easily do that and claim their business for them.
Oh, that's
And
scary.
people will do that. And then they'll leverage it for, blackmail or something.
Typo squatting, and I've claimed this asset. I'm happy to part with it, but I've put this time and effort into it, so just give me $10,000 to.
Yes. And on that note, I just have to say, and I know this is more of your specialty, but any account you create, use the two-factor authentication always, because you will lose all of your assets.
Yeah, no, I think particularly for businesses, real, I guess individuals too. I mean, like everybody needs to two-factor authentication, separate, unique, strong passwords.
Yes.
Any listener who's listened to more than one episode of the podcast has heard every guest say that, regardless of what we're talking about, almost. But it's true. I mean that could be an absolute nightmare for a company. I mean, you've seen it. Businesses have had their Twitter accounts taken over, and all sorts of horrendous content has been posted to them. That's
Yes.
that's got to be a nightmare to deal with.
It is. It just happened to my mother-in-law. She lost her Facebook.
Ah,
Completely lost it. And it wasn't because they got her password. It was because they used, friends from her Facebook account against her and made it sound like it was one of her friends asking for help to get a code, not understanding what the code was. You just gave them an access to your code, even though she had that authentication in there, she gave that code away. So you have to really be aware that no friend of yours should ever be asking you for an authentication code.
yeah.
It's a nightmare.
And I think it's one of those things you have to train your staff. When you're a business, you've got to train your staff. Hey, be careful about what information you give. Don't be evasive, but always question why someone's calling and asking for information that they shouldn't be asking for.
Exactly.
So, are there any resources that you'd recommend people take a look at that can help them at least get a better idea of this space and all the things that they're not going to be able to do on their own?
Yeah, I just say pick the really easy, obvious things: Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest. And if you're not really sure that you've done them correctly, just go to YouTube and say, how do I create these accounts? What's the best way to optimize these accounts? If there's a field that they offer, fill it out. That's always been my go-to. Don't leave something blank.
Yeah.
Those will always help you at least get something started and something established that could show up. And then if you create them, use them. Don't just let them sit around and die.
And make sure that you link to them from your website.
And vice versa, right? Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
I've seen a many website that has a Facebook, a LinkedIn, a Twitter logo down at the bottom, and I click on it, and it doesn't go anywhere, or it goes to a non-existent account, and I'm like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah, it's those. Then you know that they pretty much bought a WordPress website. They used a free theme or a paid theme, and they just didn't edit it.
Link everything, fill out everything, create, even if you don't plan on using the accounts, you really should create them just to protect your company name or your personal name.
Yeah, because one day you might come back and then use them when you need them.
You might suddenly become famous.
Yeah.
So, Darren, if anyone wants to find you or your company, where can they find you guys online?
So for me, if you just type in Darren Dunner, everything that you see shows up is everything that I want to show up. I should have that since this is what I do for a living. Um, if you look up netreputation.com, you have all the information of all the different types of services, and there's simple forms to fill out, and somebody will call you. There's plenty, of business managers that will just jump on the phone and talk to you right away. That's the best way to do it. And if there's something that you're looking for that you don't see on there, just call anyways.
Awesome. Darren, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris.